It's time now for County-Wide, a special presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. Join Paul David and Brad Miller as they talk with our community's leaders, newsmakers, and people in the know. You'll hear about the hot topics that affect all our lives here in Yavapai County. And now, here's today's County-Wide.
Well, good day and welcome to the program. It is County-Wide. Brad Miller with you, and we're happy to welcome into studio today Gary Welchel. Gary is going to visit with us for a bit today talking about officials, referees at the high school level, the sports contest you'll be going to here as we get into football and basketball, volleyball, and so on. Your young athlete, your grandson or granddaughter, the officials calling that game very, very likely are going to know Mr. Welchel or have come through the program that he is the state commissioner for. Gary's the AIA State Commissioner of Officials for the state of Arizona. We say hello to you, sir.
Good morning.
Good
Pleasure
to be here. Thanks for coming. This is so interesting. Ryan Nichols, our director of the program, producer of the show, brought this to us, and it just sounded like so much fun to get someone in here who can talk about this. Referees are kind of invisible to so many of us. We have kids in school that are athletes, and we charge out to the football field on Friday nights, and maybe that's a good thing if a referee is kind of official. It means he or she is doing his job exactly right. But you know the inside story, and that's what we're gonna get today. So let me just kind of start with the basics. I want to, toward the end of the show, we'll talk to folks about how you can become involved, because you're probably always looking for volunteers and good help to help with the AIA.
Always.
Yeah. We'll do that at the end. Some real specific information on how you can become involved, become an official, become a referee, the training that's required, and those kinds of things. But let's just kind of start. First, how did you get involved, and what is the typical pathway?
Well, my story would be a little different. I was 13 years old, sitting in the stands of a church league game, and the guy down there, his partner didn't show up, and he saw me up there, and I guess it looked like I'd played basketball, so he tossed me a whistle, and he said, "Hey, come on, kid, give me some help."
Yeah.
So I went down there, kind of got in my blood, and I was 13. That was 50 years ago.
There you go.
And so once I got into college, my freshman year, then I took an officiating class, and we were required to officiate high school as part of that class at that time.
Okay.
And so I did that, and from that point it just flourished.
You were an athlete. I'm guessing that a good many of officials, whatever sport, that are under your program, the AIA, are also athletes.
I would say 98% of them have played the sport they're officiating.
Makes sense.
Rarely do we get somebody that has not been involved.
When we get into, let's go down on the field, and let's just take basketball, for example, to kind of go that way. Every one of us listening to the show, watching the program today is going to understand, oh, there's the bad call, oh, this ref is terrible, what do you blah, all of those things, and I'm sure you've heard it. But talk to me a little bit about when you're on the other side, when you're the one with the whistle in your mouth, and you're out there and you're watching these young athletes, and I want to make sure that we remember that these are students, these are children, really, technically, by and large. And what is the role of the referee at the high school level? Certainly calling the games, following the rules, but what more is there to it?
Well, managing the environment, controlling the entire process of what's going on. We're in the education process. This is educational athletics at the high school level. So we train and talk to our officials about being part of that educational process.
Okay.
And we have to understand that there are no perfect officials, because there are no perfect games. So if we're seeing errors by the official, we're probably seeing equal errors by the teams and the coaches that are playing. Unfortunately, when an error is made by an official, it's magnified, especially if it's at a time in a game that becomes crucial. That just magnifies. And sometimes a call in the last 15 seconds that has a game-changing call wouldn't even be a blimp on the radar in the first 15 seconds.
Sure.
So it's timing of the game. But our officials are out there to manage the environment. They're to call the game by the rules. And all of our officials understand the rules. Where we have the issue sometimes comes in philosophical calling of how far to go, what to let go, when to call, those type of things.
You were describing for me before the show a little bit about that every game has a tempo.
Every game has a tempo, and what most people probably do not understand is that the officials can have a huge bearing on how that tempo develops, by how they call the game in the first couple of minutes, the calls they make, how they see the game, how they deal with people, how they deal with the athletes, talking to them kind of under the breath, hey 32, calm down, hey 32, you know, this. So by discussing things like that on the court, on the field with the athletes, they can get a handle on the game and the tempo. And every official going in a game should be aware of the mixing of who's out there and what's there. I mean, if you've got, for example, a Mingus playing a rival school, the official should know that coming in. And if they're doing a basketball game, let's say Mingus, Bradshaw Mountain, they better know what happened in the football game between Mingus and Bradshaw Mountain if there were issues there, so they know how to deal with it. Those are our better officials. Take that whole package and walk out on the court.
That off the school. Or off the field study is critical.
They'd better know if one school is plays a zone and shoots three pointers, because if you do, you're going to have long rebounds. You're not going to have box out at the inside. So they need to know what to look for, and they do that through study of the game before it starts.
When we talk about let's use that scenario, say Mingus and Bradshaw, are the referees going to be from this local area most likely?
Most likely. And the reason for that deals with cost. We're not going to send an officiating crew up from the Valley or from Tucson. We may send one from Flagstaff, depending on the rivalry and what's going on, whether we want the local officials involved in a huge matchup. One example is the Blue Ridge Sholo game that's in the White Mountains every year. We usually send a crew from the Valley up there because it puts those officials that live up there many times in a situation that they don't want to be in. They have to see these players and their parents in the supermarket on a daily basis. And sometimes it's better just to do it a different way. So we look at those kind of matchups too.
So some of those, and that's where, excuse me, you and your lieutenants come in, is understanding those. So every kind of small town school has to be understood and kind of put into the book the right way.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Do the referees, say in basketball, I think typically we have two-man crews. Do they pair up on every game that each of them will do, the other guys there? Are they partners?
Well, first of all, it would be two-person, not two-man.
Two-person, excuse me.
It depends on the area of the valley, in the area of the state you live. In the valley, we work in crews. Some of our crews have been working together 20 years, and they're the same partners. Out in the outlying areas here, outside of the valley, and basically sometimes outside of Tucson, we don't have the pairing up because of travel issues of where the game's assigned, and many times we don't pair them up the same.
Okay. Do you get a referee that'll say, "Do not send me up there to Cottonwood, that Mingus, I'm not good, that coach he's so-and-so"?
They can try.
Is that right?
They can try.
Tell me about, you've got to hear that.
Oh, well, of course I hear it. And, you know, I don't want to go, well, you know what, you need to get over it. You need to understand that this game deals with personalities. You're just not dealing with the rule book and what's going on, whether it's a travel or double dribble or a push-off or whatever you're dealing with. You're dealing with personalities. And just because you don't get along with somebody, it doesn't mean you shouldn't be able to go officiate a ball game. They need to get over it. Now, we're not going to force people, but we do a lot of counseling and working on, you know what, you probably need to step back in there. It works the same in reverse. We have no blackball in this state. So when I get a call from a coach that says, well, I don't want Jim back anymore, he did this and that, that's probably not going to happen. Unless we've had a serious issue where we've had something to go out of bounds that's off the court and things like that. But there is no blackball either way.
Along that line, parents, spectators, fans, we've all been there and seen that, and the level of rudeness that can appear. How do the persons, the guys and the gals that are calling these games, deal with that? That has to be something. Do you train for that?
Well, we do. And we talk to them about, you know, there was a philosophy for a long time that you shouldn't pay attention to the idiot in the 15th row. Okay, that was a philosophy for years with officials. Clue them out. However, okay, we've shifted a little bit. You better be aware of the idiot in the 15th row, because pretty soon that's going to be the idiot in the 10th row. Then he's going to be the idiot in the 5th row, and pretty soon he's sitting at courtside.
Gotcha.
You better be aware of where he's at and what's going on and what that effect has on the crowd and what I call the environment again. So if you've got something happening where things are starting to escalate out in this environment, then you need to take care of that business. Now that doesn't mean you go out and tell the guy you're gone. You go find game management. You say, hey, we've got some problems up there. Can you keep an eye on it? Those type of things. Keep in mind that the average fan and parent do not know the intricacies of the rule book. They do not know the calling philosophies. 3 seconds is a good one. The reason 3 seconds is in there to keep a big guy from camping in the center of the key. If there's no ball in his hands, if there's nothing happening, chances are the official is just going to tell him to get out of the key. Right. They're not going to sit there and 3-second him all night long. But most parents know the 3-second rule, so they're hollering at it all night. The other thing we have is some parents, most parents that played the sport played it 15, 16, 18 years ago. Rules have changed. And so they're yelling about a rule that they want called that isn't even in the book anymore.
Yeah. You're going to get, typically, it seems to me, especially at the high school level, well, maybe into the pros and so on, but you're going to have a very biased audience.
Of course.
Typically. You're going to have, the hometown crowd, and they're going to kind of see it and hope that the officiating goes kind of in one way.
Any call you make, half the people like and half the people don't.
Yeah, yeah.
So
that's life.
Yep, that's life. That's what it's about.
Life on the court, life on the
Correct.
field.
Correct.
Here, we got to take a short break. There's much more to come. Gary Welchel, the AIA State Commissioner of Officials, talking about officiating, refereeing at the high school level in our state. Back after this.
Having a fire escape plan is very important to keep your family safe and together in the event of a fire. When you awake to the sound of a smoke detector and smoke in your room, don't stand straight up. Carefully roll off your bed and stay low under the smoke. If your door is shut, feel the door with the back of your hand. Slowly open the door if no heat is felt. Always stay low until you get to the outside of your home. Always have 2 ways out of your house and a specified meeting place somewhere outside your home. Home escape plans should be drawn up and rehearsed on a regular basis. This could be the difference between life and death if caught in a fire.
Here in northern Arizona and throughout Yavapai County, people count on Orkin Pest Control. With over 100 years of combined experience, nobody knows how to protect your home or your business from harmful or annoying pests like the Orkin Man. To start service, contact your Northern Arizona Orkin Pest Control. In the Verde Valley, call 567-5100 or Orkin Pest Control in the Prescott area at 775-8772.
Move over, AZ. Arizona's move over law requires you to move over or slow down when you drive past any vehicle pulled over with flashing lights. Any vehicle means emergency responders, roadside assistance, law enforcement, highway crews, even stranded motorists. Ignore the law and you could pay a fine. Remember, every vehicle, every time. Move over, AZ.
Sponsored by AIA in partnership with the Arizona Broadcasters Association and this station.
Body language can tell you all sorts of things. Like someone is having a stroke. Know the sudden signs. Learn fast. Face drooping, arm weakness, speech difficulty. Time to call 911 and get them to a hospital immediately. Learn the body language.
Welcome back to the program. Again, it is countywide. Our guest today, Gary Welchel. And Gary is the State Commissioner of Officials for the AIA, and wanted to. We're kind of talking about the refs get yelled at and the coaches. There's conflict there, and the parents and all that kind of stuff. It seems to me that every person on your crew maybe gets a taste of that, but does it because love of the game, love of helping young people. There's got to be something more than to it than.
Most of the officials that I talk to that have been in this a while, and even those coming in new, and you ask them why you do this, they're giving back to a game that gave them so much.
Okay.
That's really what it's about. They played the game through high school, maybe they did a little college. They want to stay attached. Maybe their kids playing. It could be a number of things, but it's just the opportunity to be a part of something like this, and of course the opportunity to get into a state tournament and eventually a state championship game, to be able to do that at that level, and just the gratification of being able to handle that, making a difference in kids' lives, the educational process part. Maybe they see kids in their mind that are out of control and they want to be a part of trying to fix something, and that's fine. We of course have to put that in the right box for them. Make sure they understand their role.
Right. You mentioned earlier kind of that nail biter situation, the last 15 seconds in a tie game, and you think about that from the stands, from the bench, from the coaches, wherever it is. Do referees get nervous? Do you when you're in a situation like that? I don't know how you could shake that off and think I'm going to do this like it's any other game.
Well, I've been there numerous times in my life as an official. I've been there with last-second shots. I've been there in that type of situation. And because of the energy that you have at that moment, you're not thinking that.
Is that right?
That's right. You're out there and you're so focused on making sure that you don't blow this thing.
Yeah.
That nervousness is kind of out the door. You're more concerned of making sure, and your mind is thinking of all things that could happen in this last couple of seconds, and you're kind of anticipating the plays. You're not anticipating a call, but you're anticipating plays or anticipating how this is going to play out.
Right.
So you can kind of have a handle and in position to make the call if something happens. So nervousness at the higher level, I would say no. Most officials that are working in our state tournament, deep in our tournament, our championship games in any sport, they have the feel for the game. They kind of have the it factor here. They kind of got it on this whole package of what's coming at them and how it's going to happen.
Right.
So the nervousness isn't there. Now, if you got a rookie out there, I can see some nerves working a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know how you could avoid it being a human being.
Right.
If there is a call that's just blown, just a bad call, and maybe it does make a difference in a game, maybe an important game, do you sit down with that official, or is it over? When the game is over, that's over?
Well, it depends on where that happened. And I say that if we're dealing with our state tournament, we evaluate almost every game in our state tournament with evaluators. And so somebody's there watching, somebody's there dealing with them. So if we have issues, and keep in mind there's two different kinds of issues. There's the rule botch, what we call a rule burp, where they've botched a rule. That is the unpardonable sin. Because at that level, you better know the rule. We're not into this for botching a rule. Then there's the other side of the judgment issue. Okay, did you use good judgment? Did you apply the right rule on that particular call? Was the judgment right? That is a little wavy because your judgment may be different than my judgment because of where I'm standing on that particular play.
Right.
And so to dissect it apart deeply with an official, sometimes we have to be careful on this side. There's no question on the rule side. But I will tell you, after 50 years in this, officials are harder on themselves. After a game, if they've made an error that created a game-changing scenario, than anybody else would be. They feel very badly about it, especially if they botch a rule. I mean, that just, they just are, and I can guarantee you they'll never botch that rule again.
Yeah. I would anticipate that.
Yeah.
It seems like just the nature, what makes up kind of the mindset of someone who wants to do this, become involved, you would have that deep commitment to the sport, that you would feel that way, that if there was a mistake, an honest mistake made, that you'd pay for it.
Yeah, I have never run across any official in my entire career at the varsity level, keep in mind, at that level, that has purposely gone out to do something in a ball game to change the outcome. Never.
Sure, yeah. It seems like it's the kind of thing you just wouldn't be able to get away with, even if you did try.
It'd be obvious.
Let's talk about a little bit then about folks becoming involved. If we've got listeners out there right now who say, I want to do this, I want to commit to it. What is the kind of startup process? You said most are athletes, so probably there'll be an athletic background there. But what do I need to pick up the phone and to give you a call and say, I want to referee basketball games?
Well, first of all, I'd say, come on, let's
Do
go.
it.
We have about 3,000 officials. That fluctuates depending on, to be honest with you, the economy. Okay, if we have a good economy going, we lose officials. Recession sits in, we gain a lot because it's a money issue. We like to see people sign up because they love the game and they want to get back, then we'll be part of the process. We understand there's a money component to that. That's part of a component that we live with, and so we understand that. If they're interested in becoming an official, they need to call our office. Then you talk to Christy down there, 602-385-3817. Talk to Christy and get the information. Depending on where in the state you live will depend on who you'll be dealing with directly as far as training, as far as getting a schedule to work and that type of thing.
Gotcha. Gary, let's go ahead and take another short break. When we come back, we'll talk about that training. Let's walk through the process a little bit. If you want to get out there and help, and folks are always needed, you can do that. We'll talk more about it. When we come back, Gary Welchel is our guest, AIA State Commissioner of Officials, and we're back to Countywide after this.
Having a fire escape plan is very important to keep your family safe and together in the event of a fire. When you awake to the sound of a smoke detector and smoke in your room, don't stand straight up. Carefully roll off your bed and stay low under the smoke. If your door is shut, feel the door with the back of your hand. Slowly open the door if no heat is felt. Always stay low until you get to the outside of your home. Always have 2 ways out of your house and a specified meeting place somewhere outside your home. Home escape plans should be drawn up and rehearsed on a regular basis. This could be the difference between life and death if caught in a fire.
Here in northern Arizona and throughout Yavapai County, people count on Orkin Pest Control. With over 100 years of combined experience, nobody knows how to protect your home or your business from harmful or annoying pests like the Orkin Man. To start service, contact your Northern Arizona Orkin Pest Control. In the Verde Valley, call 567-5100 or Orkin Pest Control in the Prescott area at 775-8772.
Move over, AZ. Arizona's move over law requires you to move over or slow down when you drive past any vehicle pulled over with flashing lights. Any vehicle means emergency responders, roadside assistance, law enforcement, highway crews, even stranded motorists. Ignore the law and you could pay a fine. Remember, every vehicle, every time. Move over, AZ.
Sponsored by AIA in partnership with the Arizona Broadcasters Association and this station.
Body language can tell you all sorts of things. Like someone is having a stroke. Know the sudden signs. Learn fast. Face drooping, arm weakness, speech difficulty. Time to call 911 and get them to a hospital immediately. Learn the body language and spot a stroke fast.
Welcome back to the program. It is Countywide. Gary Welchel, AIA State Commissioner of Officials. And again, the phone number, if you're interested in becoming a referee, want to be involved, a good way to do it is to call this number at 602-385-3817. You'll talk to Christy, and Christy will get you started on the road. There is a website, AIAonline.org. You can take a look there for, I suppose, a lot of information.
Yes.
And about it. But perhaps to kind of get into the recruitment piece of it, the phone number, it seems like will be, Gary says, the best. Yes. Better way to go. Walk me through it. I make that call. I talk to Christy. We're ready to go. How much training is involved, and when do I start? And
well, training. We keep in mind that officials are independent contractors.
Okay.
So they bring their skills to us, and then we use them. We do some training. Most training is officials training officials.
Okay.
It's not necessarily the AIA training. It's officials training officials.
Gotcha.
So we set that process up with our officials. Okay. And we hold one huge meeting that we do with all of our officials to give them new rules, give them some basic training. And then the officials themselves take over the training of those new recruits and mentor them and bring them into the fold. And usually we'll take a couple of them and work with them through the season, and they'll train them and help them get better and work. And then that individual then has a list of camps they can go to in the summer. Okay. Do some other things to get better and just learn those type of things.
Is there an area or a sport where you need officials more than others? Well, we got enough for football for now, but we could really use some help with wrestling, say, or
soccer.
Is that right?
Baseball, softball. Volleyball, football, and basketball seem to be our ones that we have officials for, that we don't usually have too much of an issue for. The other sports become difficult at different times.
Okay, yeah. So there you go, especially there. Yep. Final question for you, Gary. Who's the biggest jerk you ever met on the court? Come on. Yeah, I didn't expect you to answer that.
You're probably not going to get that answer.
You're too much of a gentleman.
Right,
I joked with Gary during the break that you could write a book, and you probably could.
Yes.
Good stories, sad stories, and happy stories, all of it.
Interesting stories.
I'll bet.
Interesting. 50 years in this business has provided just a plethora of stuff.
Maybe we'll have you back and we'll get some of those stories out of you. In the meantime, we appreciate what you do.
Thank you.
Terrific working with young people in any way that's done, and the AIA and the officials, the guys and gals that do that, we salute them. Gary Welch is the AIA State Commissioner of Officials, and we appreciate you joining us for Countywide. We'll see you next time.
No problem.
This has been Countywide, a special presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. Listen in each Tuesday and Thursday as we tackle the hot topics and talk to the decision makers across Yavapai County. That's Countywide with Brad Miller and Paul David each Tuesday and Thursday on this Yavapai Broadcasting station.